Welcome to the third video in our virtual Grant Round series here at Teachers College, Columbia University.
In the prior video we came to understand the need to understand culture. We said that providers need to have a sensitivity to cultural issues for each patient.
We also said that often considerations of those who are members of the LGBT and MSM groups are left out when people talk and learn about cultural competence.
In the prior video we learned that when healthcare providers sit with patients who are from the LGBT and MSM groups, they have entered a cross-cultural situation. Providers have to be able to work effectively in these cross-cultural situations.
So, let's learn more about culture, while focusing on the LGBT and MSM cultural groups.
We want you to learn to think about LGBT and MSM patients as belonging to distinct cultural groups.
There is a cultural group of lesbians, or gay men, and men who have sex with men. And the cultural group of those who are bisexual.
There is also the cultural group of those who are transgender.
A culture involves ways of doing things, or practices and traditions. There are also beliefs and ways of looking at the world.
These practices, traditions, and beliefs tend to be shared among members of that cultural group.
A culture also involves passing on these practices, traditions, and beliefs from one group member to another group member. Traditions can also be passed on from one generation of members of that cultural group, to the next generation of members of that cultural group.
A new generation or members of a cultural group can also create new practices, new traditions, and create new beliefs that reflect the times in which the people live. New language, or new terms, or new beliefs can be created by members of a cultural group.
For example, in many states across this country, lesbians and gay men are creating new practices and new traditions involving marriage.
Now that more and more states have made marriage between two women or two men legal, we see the current generation of LGBT couples creating new practices and new traditions around marriage.
LGBT couples getting married have ceremonies that may be similar to or very different from the marriage practices and traditions common to heterosexual couples.
For example, LGBT couples getting married may create vows that reject traditional, heterosexual marriages. Practices imply that one human being can possess another human being.
Some LGBT couples are so sensitive to the dynamics of oppression that they reject marriage vows that imply one human being can possess another human being.
Or, the idea of exchanging rings may be rejected and replaced with some other new symbols, practices, or traditions within marriage ceremonies. These may be new practices, new traditions, and new beliefs that prior LGBT generations did not create, or forge when marriage was not legal. Yet, some of these new practices and traditions are springing up right now in the current LGBT generation.
So, there can also be subgroups or pockets of a cultural group that involve certain members who start to do things in their own way.
Every member of a cultural group has a right to define their own identity and to forge new ways of doing things. They have the right to develop and spread new beliefs. As a result, there can be a lot of diversity of opinion, or difference of opinion, and a variety of ways of seeing the world, even among members of the same cultural group.
For example, consider men who have sex with men. There are some men who have sex with men, or MSM, who have decided upon the personal identity as someone who is gay.
Other MSM have decided upon a personal identity as someone who is bisexual, having sex with both men and women.
Then, there are other men who have sex with men who have decided that they are not going to talk about what they do sexually at all. They refuse to label what they do or who they are. They refuse to be placed in a category or to accept a label.
They do what they do, and feel no need to declare an identity.
They refuse to take on the identity of someone who is gay.
Or, they refuse to take on the identity of someone who is bisexual.
So, this is an example of how there can be a cultural group of MSM, and a subgroup or pocket of that cultural group who do things in their own way, such as refusing to talk about what they do sexually with other men, and even what they may do sexually with other women. Or refusing the label or identity of being gay or bisexual.
There is another subgroup or pocket within the cultural group of men who identify as gay who strongly believe that all men who have sex with men would be better off if they took on the identity of being gay.
They view accepting the identity of being gay as achieving a higher level of psychological health. Some professionals agree with them, including many psychologists and psychiatrists.
Many view it as a positive step for any man who has sex with other men to take on the identity of being gay. Within this view, taking on a gay identity is seen as suggesting acceptance of oneself and attaining a higher level of maturity.
Some gay men believe that every man having sex with other men should be open and share what they do, talking about it freely, or being out of the closet, and open about their sexuality.
On the other hand, some gay men believe that it is best to respect the privacy of those gay men who decide not to share about what they do sexually with other men.
Being discreet or keeping one's sexual activities private is seen as a legitimate way to live one's life by some other gay men.
Many psychologists and psychiatrists agree with this view, also.
For example, in the Black or African American community, some men who have sex with men are very active in the church. They perceive their church as condemning the behavior of men having sex with men.
They feel pressure to keep their sexual activities with other men private. They may even feel pressure to date or marry a woman. Yet, they may still have sex with other men.
Fortunately, many churches in the Black or African American community have begun to embrace and accept the diversity in sexual orientation and sexual behavior among their church members.
Many ministers, pastors, and reverends have stopped preaching against homosexuality, especially because of the HIV/AIDS epidemic.
Other men who have sex with men, and gay men, who belong to a variety of religious and spiritual traditions, take many different approaches to their sexual behavior and identity. As providers, we have to be ready to understand and accept all of these approaches.
That means accepting patient decisions to be open and out about sexual behavior, and accepting patient decisions to be private and in the closet about sexual behavior.
It is one thing to encourage a person to be open and out when it comes to their sexual behavior or sexual preferences or gender identity.
It is another thing to consider the reality that in some families and communities a person can be rejected, thrown out, and even subjected to violence, or killed because of their sexual behavior.
So, we recommend that a healthcare provider exercise caution.
Understand that the process of deciding to be open and out, or to come out of the closet, or share openly with others is no minor affair. There can be serious repercussions.
Individual members of the LGBT and MSM cultural groups have to go through their own process and make the decisions that are best for them when it comes to being either open and out about their sexual behavior, or private and in the closet. As healthcare professionals, we have to respect these decisions. And, if we are fortunate enough to have our LGBT and MSM patients return to us again and again for healthcare over a long period of time, then we may be able to witness changes over time in their decisions to be open and out, or private and in the closet. A new partner in a patient's life may lead to a patient being open and out, or a new partner or a new job may lead to a change toward being private and in the closet. Their new partner may have a high-profile job and is not ready to risk the repercussions of being open and out of the closet. They might feel like they would be risking their next promotion.
Because of having this new partner, a patient who was once open and out might agree to start being more discreet and private about their sexual behavior.
Or, someone might get a new job where they work with children. They might be concerned that some conservative parents might protest their working around their children.
So, someone who used to be open and out might start being more discreet and private about their sexual behavior, because of their new job working with children.
The goal is to be accepting of whatever position the patient takes on these issues. This diversity of opinion within the LGBT and MSM cultural groups is not too surprising. Think about it. There is a lot of diversity of opinion and difference of opinion within the cultural groups of those who embrace Black culture, or Jewish culture, or Italian culture, or even American culture.
So, we find the same diversity and difference of opinion within LGBT and MSM cultural groups. At the same time, there are enough ways of doing things, practices, beliefs and traditions that are shared in common among members of these groups to justify our speaking about there being a culture shared by lesbians, or a culture shared by gays, or a culture shared by bisexuals, or a culture shared by the transgender.
For example, there may be at least one shared practice and belief that one has the right to love and be sexually intimate with someone of the same sex or gender. Or, there may be the common practice and belief that one has the right to love and be sexually intimate with someone who refuses to be placed in a gender category. Or, there may be the common practice and belief that one has the right to love and be sexually intimate with someone who chooses to be free to move back and forth between relationships with men and relationships with women.
One might even speak of a larger common culture shared by those who are both LGBT and MSM here. What this larger non-heterosexual cultural group shares is at least one common:
that people have the right and freedom to choose how they love, how they have sex, and how they define themselves, including their gender.
We firmly believe that today's healthcare providers have the responsibility to learn how to effectively engage members of the LGBT and MSM cultural groups into the treatment process.
Contemporary healthcare providers have the responsibility and obligation to become culturally competent.
Being culturally competent means entering the worldview of that one person sitting in the consultation room with you in your treatment setting.
The worldview of that one person sitting in your consultation room may be unique as a man who has sex with men. It may be a unique worldview and very different from other MSM.
Their worldview may be influenced by their level of education, their socioeconomic status, where they work, where they pray, as well as by their partner and family.
To enter the worldview of that one patient is to ask the kind of questions that allow that person to share what they believe, what they practice, and what they consider to be their cultural traditions, especially when it has an impact on their health or how you treat them when you deliver healthcare services.
The worldview or way that one MSM patient sees their life, experiences, and traditions can be very different from another LGBT or MSM patient.
So, we have to ask the kind of open-ended questions that will elicit the worldview of that one patient sitting before us in the consultation room.
And, we have to learn to listen to their answers to our questions, and to be open to hearing whatever they are saying. This will allow us get to know and understand that one LGBT or MSM patient sitting before us in the consultation room. We want to share some information on this website that will allow you to achieve success in asking the right kinds of questions, so that your LGBT or MSM patient will open up to you, and let you enter their world, and learn about their worldview, or a way of seeing things from their perspective.
Later in the virtual Grant Round series we will discuss brief motivational interviewing, or MI.
MI will serve as a guide for how to ask the right kinds of questions.